And who is the number one player on the top 100 this year?
On the what?
On the top 100.
I'm not saying him. I give credit when it's due, but I'm not saying his name.
I don't know who you're talking about.
Yeah, you do. I'm not saying his name, brother. I'm sorry. Joe Burrow. I'm not saying that guy's name. He's good. He's amazing. He's good. Not gonna lie. I'm salty though. I'm a little salty. 2 years in a row. But I'm putting Burrow first.
Welcome in to It's Always Sunny in Chiefs Kingdom. I'll type my name. I'm Austin. You can find me on Twitter at RealBirdLawyer. I will also say the name of my co-host, Taylor, at Taylor_Witt on Twitter. We're both perfectly willing to say each other's names. What's going on, buddy?
Yeah, saying names is really easy if you're in the Chiefs Kingdom. You can say the names of all the people that you beat and all your cohorts, all your friends, everything.
All
we
your
love
enemies.
names. We love names here. So, dude, that clip is going to just sit next to my heart for years to come. I can't believe how triggered. For anyone who heard the clip but doesn't know, that is Jamar Chase being interviewed for the NFL Top 100. And they said, who is the number one player in football? And he's like, nah, man, I can't say his name. Because, of course, he's completely shell-shocked, and as everyone else in the NFL is. It's a blessing.
You know, it is a blessing because whatever team the Chiefs beclown and destroy, whether it be the Buffalo Bills with their little team content videos that they put out after the draft that just make them look like the most bumbling, inept team in the NFL, trading, allowing the Chiefs to jump them to take Trent McDuffie, trading away the picks that became Patrick Mahomes, allowing the Chiefs to trade up with them after we just beat them in the playoffs for the third time in 4 years and take Xavier Worthy. And then they just put out the videos of them just, hey, buddy. And, here you have the Bengals, who, of course, have only lost one game to the Chiefs in their 4 meetings with a healthy Joe Burrow. But the Chiefs are back-to-back Super Bowl champions, and that is probably one of the many things that Jamar Chase was referencing in that clip when he said 2 years in a row. I got a feeling that the number one player in the NFL Top 100 is going to be the same guy 2 years in a row, and it's the guy that Jamar Chase he won't say his name. Now, my favorite part about this clip was the part where he after this back and forth where he refuses to say Pat's name, he's like, Joe Burrow. And it's like, come on, bro. Like, now at this point, you basically admitted that you don't think Joe Burrow is the best player.
Correct. Because that's his joke answer. That's not his serious answer.
Right.
He should have said,
his joke answer.
My number one player is Joe Burrow.
Right. And
if
he was a smart person, he would have said that. And to your point, we were talking about this today when we were gleefully exchanging this clip.
Yeah.
It's his list. If you guys have ever seen these lists, players send in the most absurd lists of all time. I've seen lists where they literally list themselves 20 times, 1 through 20. They put literally like the dumbest and worst players in the NFL in the top 5.
Or like their
10.
whole team is the top 20 or whatever. Like, these guys don't care about the integrity of the NFL Top 100. So why is Jamar Chase saying, oh, you guys know who I picked at number 1, but I can't even say his name? Like, bitch, don't pick him then.
But he had to because he is the best player in the NFL. We are brought to you by Fansided, and we have a short episode today as I'm headed out to San Diego to visit the San Diego Comic-Con this weekend. So we're recording this on a Wednesday. We're going to keep it short. I'm also going to be visiting probably some various museum ships. I'll maybe go see the platypus at the Safari Park, that sort of thing. Just, all the stuff that I'm kind of into. So we're going to hit the news. We're going to answer a couple of mailbag questions. We're going to call it a week. And then, of course, next week, we'll be back with a full-length podcast. We'll have Dan Harms coming on to talk about training camp and sort of preview the season, what he's seeing from the rookies and the new faces that we have in camp. And we will also be recapping the first road playoff game of Patrick Mahomes' career at Buffalo when we do our ongoing series, The Next Great American Dynasty. But today, let's keep it short. Let's keep it sweet. Let's hit the news. Well, all the players are in camp now, Taylor. And there's one player who was in camp and now, unfortunately, is not in camp because he has strep throat. And I'm talking, of course, about Xavier Worthy. And this really is why we're recording a short little 30-minute or so podcast today, is because Xavier Worthy out there on the field. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Professor X.
Xavier Worthy. He made me ecstatic because he was out on the field with Patrick Mahomes a couple of days ago at training camp in St. Joseph, Missouri. And I love consuming training camp content because you hear about it before you see it, right? Like It's not like a game where we're all watching a network broadcast. Like what you will see in your Twitter timeline is a bunch of guys being like, "Oh my God, Mahomes
this
just threw
throw
a bomb."
Yes.
Mahomes just threw a bomb to Xavier Worthy while he was going to his left. It was insane. He had to like lay out for it, went to the ground and everything like that. And then like 30 to 45 minutes later, somebody will get the clip and post it online and it will immediately just blow up. Like, here it is. Like, I'm out here hitting the like button. I'm hitting the retweet button. I'm putting this information out here in the world, but I haven't even seen the play. And this was, I saw a few national commentators, like, kind of they're coming out from under their rocks, out of their caves, and they're sort of starting to consume, content from around the league. And I saw several national commentators sort of like pick up on this tweet that was like, "Oh, hey, like this play sounds like pretty cool." And then when they saw it, they were like, "Oh my God, like this exceeded my wildest imaginings of what this play looked like." So we had to start here. And I'm not going to lie, just based solely on this one single play, I think my Chiefs training camp hype meter is higher than it's ever been, which is wild to say. We went to training camp in 2018, which is the first year that Patrick Mahomes was the starter.
Wearing our Mahomes jerseys.
We almost got an autograph. We were close. But, I mean, we're 30-something-year-old men, and there's children there, and, we don't want to get in the way of that. We don't want to be weird about it. But we saw him do some wacky stuff. It was extremely cool. It was a lot of fun. I was extremely hyped. We had seen him play in the preseason, and we had seen him play in that final week start at Denver, which he won in comeback fashion. But this is like, I mean, this play alone has got me just completely hyped out of control.
Yeah, it was the personification of drafting Xavier Worthy. This is what you draft him for. The fastest player in combine history. Let me repeat that. The fastest player in NFL combine history. That is a list of the most elite runners of all time that have played football. I mean, and he checked in at number one. So you figure you get him out there, and we were blessed to watch Tyreek Hill torch defenses for years here. I mean, that his time here was magical, and it was we took it for granted at the time, even though we really appreciated it. And then he left for a couple years, and it was like, oh my God, offense is so much harder when you don't have the fastest player in the league. Like, it's so much harder. And they still, won a couple rings, figured it out. It was still fun. It's still sunny in Chiefs Kingdom, but this throw just had me thinking. It had me thinking a lot. It had me thinking a lot about possibilities and ceilings and high scoring and just a lot of the fun things that were possible back when we had a Blazer. And I just can't wait to get things underway. You're right. My hype meter's through the roof.
And we would be remiss if we didn't shout out and give some attention to the throw here, which was also insane.
Absurd.
If this was a throw that any quarterback but Patrick Mahomes made in a regular season or postseason NFL football game, and not, in training camp, I mean, people would be going bananas. This would be the best play of many NFL quarterbacks' career. And it's not like we haven't seen Mahomes do this before, but it's been a little while since we've gotten to see it, because for 2 years since Tyreek Hill's been gone, they haven't had the deep speed. And really, the last season they had Tyreek Hill, defenses were so focused on taking Tyreek Hill out of the game deep, holding him, putting the too high shell, not letting him go over the top. So it really has been like 3 years since we've seen, bombs away down the field with this kind of deep speed and Mahomes being willing to chuck it. And obviously, as we know from the very first Mahomes training camp where he was throwing all those interceptions. We know that he's hucking the
Messing
ball.
around.
He's messing around. He's trying to get confidence with these receivers. He's trying to figure out which guys are going to be able to make a play, who he's going to be able to trust. But it's great to see him flexing
Mhm.
literally
Mhm.
that muscle and that connection with Xavier Worthy. It was amazing to see. I'm hyped out of control for that. In other wide receiver news, Justin Watson suffered a knee injury today after colliding with cornerback Nazi Johnson. No updates yet on how serious those injuries are, but if Justin Watson misses time, that would potentially spice things up a little bit for another training camp hero, Nico Remigio, who for the second year in a row is just lighting St. Joe on fire. I don't know. I really don't know what to expect from Nico Remigio. I still think obviously it's an outside chance for him to make the roster, but if Justin Watson doesn't, if he for whatever reason can't go week one, if this is a serious injury, let's hope it isn't. I mean, he's got to be creeping up the depth chart at this point. This is 2 years in a row that he has looked like one of the better receivers in camp. And there's certainly some space at the bottom of that wide receiver depth chart for a guy like Nico Remigio to potentially make the roster.
Yeah, last year in preseason, what I was most impressed by Nico Remigio was his preseason game performances, much more than his camp performances, which I'm I'm not someone who falls for camp hype. Like, I just can't do it anymore. I've fallen for it too many times and it's turned out to be nothing. But what I can fall for still is game hype, is preseason,
Preseason games,
like
sure.
watching them actually do it against with pads against someone who doesn't know the play, and a lot of people were projecting him last year to be one of those, like you said, bottom fringe of the wide receiver room roster spots. But when the bottom tier guys are Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney,
Hmm.
McCole Hardman, a banged up potentially Justin Watson, I mean, obviously the top three guys are locked. And everyone after the top three is a bit of a question mark. I would have put Watson safely at 4 if he didn't get hurt. But now that he's at least dealing with something, that is always a risk of things not going according to plan and not getting your reps in. And I mean, whatever. But yes, I'm really excited about Remigio. I think that if he has a camp and a preseason like he had last year, I find it hard to project him off the roster at this point.
Yeah, I mean, especially since, I mean, you mentioned not falling for training camp hype. Boy, the training camp hype darling of last year's training camp was Sky Moore. And boy, do I ever feel duped by that one. I just,
Yep. Yep.
now this year, contrary to last season's hype, it's been very quiet. And pretty much every time I've seen his name appear in the camp coverage, it's been negative. He's dropping a ball, he's running the wrong route. So, I mean, if he's taking himself out of the picture and draft capital notwithstanding, his play certainly has taken him out of the picture. I mean, he's at the point where I feel like he should be on the outside looking in, and he
I agree.
really has to earn that spot. I mean, what do you have to lose from giving it to a guy like Nico, right? Like
Yeah.
after 2 seasons, I'm not saying that third year breakouts never happen. It used to be that the third year for a wide receiver was when they were expected to break out, but that's just not how the league has gone the last several years, and he's shown nothing over the first 2 seasons to indicate that he's going to be worth anything. So, I mean, why not take a shot on one of these guys? And especially since, if you're going to have Rashee Rice, it looks increasingly likely that, any
Man.
punishment for Rashee might not come until 2025. If you're going to have Rashee, Xavier Worthy, and Hollywood Brown as your top three with, Travis Kelce out there at tight end, I mean, that's a fantastic receiving
Yes.
core to build off of. And after that, I mean, just throw some darts, like see
Mm-hmm.
who stands out. I mean, look for guys that have the capability of giving you quality snaps. And so far, that hasn't been Sky Moore. So far, that hasn't been Kadarius Toney. We will talk about him in a second, how he might contribute in other ways. But it's going to be interesting to see how this battle continues to shake out. Let's talk about the running back situation. Speaking of Kadarius Toney, Of course, we have Isaiah Pacheco as RB1. He's healthy. He's ready to go. He's fired up. He's bringing the energy every day at St. Joseph, Missouri, like he always does. Behind him is where it gets kind of interesting because you will recall, of course, that the Chiefs brought back Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and they didn't really do that much else to address the position. So currently getting the RB2 snaps, or at least the bulk of the RB2 snaps behind Isaiah Pacheco, is Deneric Prince, 2023 UDFA, who you may recall has a little bit of juice to him. Taylor, a 4.41 40-yard dash at 216 pounds. So big dude, fast runner, a 9.56 relative athletic score, which includes for his size, a 95th percentile 40, a 93rd percentile 20, and a 93rd percentile 10-yard split. Now, those, the shuttle, the three cone, the vertical jump, those are all average. Height, weight, bench, all average. Broad jump, which is obviously an indicator of explosion, that's 89th percentile. So this is a guy that's pretty big, and for his size, really fast. So, I mean, right out of the gate, that's kind of at least superficially similar to Pacheco. I mean, a guy that doesn't necessarily have a lot of wiggle, but has some size and has a lot of long speed. Like if he gets past that first line and out into the secondary, I mean, I don't want to compare him to Derrick Henry, but that style of runner, right? Like if you stack him in the box, like maybe you're going to hold him to 2 yards of carry, but every once in a while he's going to pop one. And it's interesting to me that the top two runners so far in training camp are guys that both sort of fit that profile.
Yeah. The first thing I'll say about him is it's actually pronounced Deneric Prince. So you gotta really brush up on this. But that's he has been a guy that I was looking forward to last year. I really thought he was going to be a contributor. Again, somewhat based on camp hype, probably most based on camp hype. But he performed pretty well in the preseason as well last year. And I kind of just thought he would be a guy worth keeping on the roster. But of course, last year they had Jerick McKinnon. And they just couldn't afford Pacheco, Clyde, McKinnon, and a fourth running back that mattered. So they went with the three. Now this year, without having signed McKinnon, you need a change of pace from Pacheco. And I think they're probably they can't be that enamored with Clyde at this point. Yes, they brought him back, of course, but they're begging for someone else to take that RB2 job instead of Clyde. Like they're begging for it. And so, I mean, yeah, let's throw Prince back out there. He's a guy that I was happy to see that he hadn't parted ways with the Chiefs and gone on to try and get playing time somewhere else or whatever. He's stuck on the practice squad. He knows the offense. The guys like him a lot. All the stuff from the franchise when they were covering camp a lot last year was very, very warm with Prince. They were all joking with him. And I mean, I just think that the running back room in general was really tight last year, and that included him. And, I'd like to see the kid succeed. I completely agree that he's capable of popping one. And if he does that a couple times between camp and the preseason, I think he's got a decent shot to be the RB3 on this team.
Well, not so fast, my friend, because there's another contender running back on this team. Maybe, possibly, probably not. But Kadarius Toney is getting snaps at running back, not necessarily a position switch just yet, setting aside the fact that Kadarius Toney is never healthy and running back is a much more physically demanding position than wide receiver is in theory. Andy Reid says he had some positive snaps for us at running back last year, so he enjoys doing that. Pretty multifaceted there with what he can do. We're going to try and utilize it to the best of his abilities there. Obviously, a classic Andy Reid quote saying nothing, but he's getting reps there. He did take a few snaps there with the Chiefs last year. In his career, 21 carries for 119 yards, so about 6 yards a pop, and 1 touchdown. So, if you compare that to his production as a wide receiver, that one game his rookie year against Dallas notwithstanding, sure, you could look at that and say, oh, yeah, this guy's a running back. Now, can he stay healthy there? Probably not. Is he going to have the nuance as a route runner? And obviously, him being a wide receiver, you would assume that he can catch. I mean, you would assume that. You'd be wrong, but you would assume it just based on his natural position. But could you get him to the point where, he could develop into a Jerick McKinnon type as a running back? And I mean, overnight, probably not, because Jerick McKinnon, for his size, was a really good blocker. We saw throughout his career, very willing blocker. Uh,
Yeah, one of the
some
better blockers on the team.
some highlight reel blocks for Jet McKinnon, getting out there and sacrificing his body. But I mean, I don't know. Like, I feel like at this point, we just talked about Sky Moore. Kadarius Toney's in the same boat for me. Obviously, he just has not proven through his play on the field that he has any future with this team. So why not get weird with it? Like, why not try him out in this role? And I think, you know, it's not totally unprecedented, right? Like, Tyreek Hill came in as a running back and converted to wide receiver. The guy that I kind of think of, not that they're the same player because Cordero Patterson is faster, but like a guy like Cordero Patterson who came in as a wide receiver, an older prospect who didn't really understand the wide receiver position that well. I mean, late in his career, I'm talking about his late 20s, early 30s, teams are finally like, well, what if you just took snaps as running back and like you're fast and you're shifty and you can't catch or run routes, but like get you in the open field and you can make some guys miss and we can make some things happen up there. I don't know. I think it's an interesting idea. I don't know if it's going to work, but I think at this stage of Kadarius Toney's Chiefs career, why not?
Yeah, I definitely think they're in the why not phase with him. It's just kind of like, well, bud, we're probably going to cut you. So before we do that, let's see if we can squeeze any last drop of productivity out of you that we can find. And yeah, I mean, I think that he's always going to have something that Sky Moore doesn't have, which is like potential. I mean, I'm sorry to Sky Moore, but like Kadarius Toney has athletic potential. You can see it even if he doesn't show it. Whereas Sky Moore, I can't even really see it. But with the way that Toney can kind of wiggle in small spaces, I mean, that's something that Florida actually used him a lot as just kind of like a scat
Right.
back, like a random, the problem is, at least the problem I see with it, is that when you're a guy that plays wide receiver that comes in and takes running back snaps, that's a curveball. You're throwing them something that they haven't seen, or that maybe they've seen it, but it's just not a normal play. So you can kind of catch some guys by surprise. If you're going to line him up play after play, or not even play after play, but if he's only going to be taking running back snaps or mostly running back snaps, now he comes into the game and those DNs and D tackles and stuff, like they're sniffing out the run. They're ready to, see him take the handoff and go get him. And I just don't know if Toney has the ability to trick people like that. We'll see. If anyone could do it, it's Andy. If anyone can make this transition successful, it's this offensive staff, and there's enough pieces around. That's the other thing, is that, they've got pass catchers galore, as you talked about, in the top 4 spots with Kelsey and the 3 wide receivers, that, it's not like Toney needs to be a running back. Like they don't need him on the roster. They don't need him. So because they don't need him, you can kind of mess around, you can play and see what happens.
Yeah, it's a good position to be in. Speaking of good positions to be in, Jared Wiley, the Chiefs pick at tight end this year, flashing in camp early. Every time I see a clip of Jared Wiley, I think back to our conversation with our friend Charles Goldman a couple months ago, where he said he heard from a source in the Chiefs organization say of Jared Wiley, Travis Kelce who? And every time I see Jared Wiley out there making a one-handed catch, I think of that quote. And I mean, I'm starting to get a little bit greedy. Like this has all been just a little bit overwhelming, you go months without football and then suddenly you're injected with pure hype directly into your veins. And the Xavier Worthy, excuse me, caught myself there. You will train me yet.
You'll get there someday.
Yeah, someday. I am going to start typing it into the doc, XXX Avier Worthy, so that I remember that it's X Avier. The point is this. I'm very out of control hyped about Jared Wiley, and I actually am a little bit afraid for myself because we know that rookie tight ends are not a thing hardly ever. Sam Laporta last year, amazing, like one of the greatest rookie tight end seasons of all time. The dude for Atlanta, whose name escapes me, who just had a great rookie year a couple years ago, Kyle Pitts. was great. And then like Mike Ditka, and those are like the three tight ends who had great rookie seasons. And Kyle Pitts has done nothing since his rookie year.
They're-
Laporta, I'm sure,
yeah.
I mean, he looks like a dude. But the point is, I mean, we can't get that excited about Jared Wiley. Even if he were to be the greatest rookie tight end ever, he's still behind Travis Kelce. And yet, I I'm having a hard time not getting hyped about Jared Wiley based on what I'm seeing.
Here's the deal. You remember when the Green Bay Packers had Brett Favre for all those years, and then they got rid of him and they replaced him with Aaron Rodgers. They had
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers for all those years, and then they got rid of him and they replaced him with Jordan
Yeah.
Love. And they're probably
Sure.
going to have him for all those years. Well, just replace those players with Tony Gonzalez and Travis Kelce and Jared Wiley.
Sure. Sure.
Some organizations just have certain positions figured out, and they just cycle in Hall of Famer after Hall of Famer at the same position. And there's no reason why the Chiefs can't do the same thing right here with tight end. It doesn't mean that for the 2024 season, Jared Wiley is going to go out there and have 1,000 yards. Of course, as you said, playing behind Kelce, rookie tight end, all that stuff. But the hype is real and it's warranted. And he's a playmaker. And he's in a great offense to learn and to grow and to, I mean, talk about having the best mentor you could possibly have. The leader of tight end U. I mean, literally like the best tight end teacher the game has to offer is in the tight end room with Jared Wiley every single day, telling him how Patrick Mahomes thinks and where he wants him to be and trying to get that psychic connection transferred so that Travis can ride off into the sunset and hand off the reins of the greatest tight end of all time to the next guy. I mean, clearly that would work out well for all involved. And yeah, I'm hyped about Wiley. Why not at this point? I mean, he's shown nothing but positive reasons to be hyped for him. And the Travis U line is funny, but like, we'll see how it goes.
I mean, he's got the body type, he's got the athleticism, and he's flashed so far. It's a fun idea. He's definitely a fun guy to get behind hype wise. The left tackle battle is still early. We've got Wanya Morris and Kingsley Suamataia splitting first team reps the first two practices. Then Wanya took all the first team reps in the third practice, with Kingsley getting the second team reps. And then today, fourth practice, they're back to splitting first team reps. I don't know. I mean, it's so early in camp. Can't really read too much into that. It's been almost an even split, with the exception of Morris getting one practice where he was essentially getting all the first team reps. I'm curious if they're going to give Kingsley, a day where, you're not rotating in and out, right? You're just going to be on the first team this day, just see how that goes. If that's imminent, right now, I guess Wanya would have the edge just based on how many first team reps he's gotten, but it's not surprising that he, being the veteran of those two guys, now obviously he's only a second year player, but with him having the edge in NFL snaps marginally over the rookie who has not played in an NFL game yet, it's maybe not too surprising this early in camp that this is kind of the split and how it's shaken out.
No, I think that it makes a lot of sense with how Andy kind of approaches rookies in general. Very rarely does he want to just throw a rookie in and name the rookie the starter and put everything on them. That's just not really how he tends to roll with that stuff. So yes, Wanya having the extra year and the extra time in the offense. This is his second camp and he had the whole last season to learn. And I mean, I think he should rightfully have the inside track to the left tackle battle. Now, what's great about having a guy like Suamataia is that he can push Wanya. And if Wanya isn't up to standard, and if he's struggling, and if he's got, reason or health issues, I mean, clearly it's great to have two guys there for that spot in case, one of them gets banged up. But I like having two young guys both battling for that left tackle spot because they're going to make each other better. And if Morris starts the year off as the starter, don't be surprised if Kingsley ends up, maybe outperforming him in practice and snatching it away about 6 or 7 weeks into the year. I mean, that certainly could happen. I just find their battle to be all positive so far. I think that the growth of both of those players is a lot of fun and something that I'm really excited to watch.
Yeah, and they've been saying all the right things too about their relationship. It sounds like those guys have the right attitude, both very supportive of each other. And, I mean, whichever one of them gets to go out there and protect Pat's blindside is going to have the the best job in the NFL, but an important job. And it's important that both of those guys get some reps because you just never know what's going to happen during the season. At cornerback, we got from Pete Sweeney. It appears Steve Spagnuolo is going to be going with Trent McDuffie and Joshua Williams in the base defense, with Jamari Connor working the nickel. Kelvin Joseph and Nazi Johnson are looking to be the backup cornerbacks at this point in time. Spags has also been working rookie Kamal Haddon into the slot. And our friend Charles Goldman, with a quote from Joshua Williams, says he 100% wants the number 2 cornerback job. Going to do everything I can to step in there and compete. This is a really interesting position, and this is the last one before we hit the mailbag. We knew coming in that this was going to be kind of an open competition, and
Sure.
obviously the whole that we're just talking about the cornerbacks, but the whole of the secondary. Justin Reed is a little bit banged up right now. Jaden Hicks has been getting a lot of activity out there, the rookie 4th-round safety, and has been getting rave reviews. So the Chiefs are going to take a holistic approach here. I mean, they're going to put guys in the position to succeed, but all these guys are going to get snaps. It's just going to be really interesting to see where this rotation shakes out. And right now, Jalen Watson is dealing with a little bit of an injury situation as well, so he's not getting a lot of reps. It's interesting. I mean, where would he be factoring into this equation? It sounds like he maybe at this point is a little bit behind Joshua Williams, but we've seen those two guys flip flop, for snaps over the couple of years that they've been playing in this defense too. So it's not like one is clearly established over the other. And let's not forget that Nazi Johnson, who did get banged up when he ran into Justin Watson today in practice. Hopefully that's not a serious injury. But let's not forget that he was playing over both of those guys last camp before he got hurt. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this shakes out. And I don't know what the Chiefs are going to do yet. I'm fascinated to see how this battle ends up.
I saw an update on Nazi that said that he was taken out as a precaution because of his last season's knee injury, and that it wasn't anything serious. I expect him to be back out there ASAP. I just am so tickled about this entire secondary from top to bottom. Every single name you mentioned is a guy that I'm like, oh yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing what that guy can do out there. I mean, Trent McDuffie, Joshua Williams, Shamari Connor, Nazi Johnson. You think about, I mean, Jalen Watson, like you said, and then the safety rotation, Brian Cook, and I mean, all these guys, the rookies, both Haddon and Hicks, like every single one of them are players, are guys that I'm like really looking forward to watching their development. And that's just, we've talked about it before. The absolute secret sauce to this defense has been just finding diamonds in the rough in the secondary over and over and over and over again throughout the entire tenure of Veach being there. And, this is the payoff, is that you get to look at a group like this and you get to look at these 4 or 5 cornerbacks battling and these 2 or 3 safeties and all these young players, all these guys none of these guys are veterans. And yet I feel really confident if Shamari Connor and Nazi Johnson are out there playing like significant snaps at cornerback, not because of injuries, but because they've been earning it. Like, I'm fired up for that. I think that both of those guys are dudes. And obviously Trent is coming in off of, one of the best corner years last year out of any player. Yeah. He was unbelievable. And so that's a guy that he's extremely young and still now has already just locked in. I keep laughing about how, as much as the Chiefs have been fortunate on the offensive side, having, 2 GOATs on the offense and an offensive play calling GOAT and all the stuff that they've had offensively, that, I mean, Spags is a GOAT, Chris Jones is a first ballot Hall of Famer, and then they just have like a secondary that just rotates in and in and in and in, and all those guys come in and play well. I don't know what this franchise is not doing very well at the moment, but it's not much.
It's fantastic. That's going to do it for the news. Let's hit a couple of mailbag questions here. We got one here from Jordan Screen.
Kaka!
Been mulling this over for a couple weeks. If Nick Bolton did get the second touchdown in Super Bowl 57, which he recapped, which he did. We just recapped that a couple of weeks ago. I assume he gets Super Bowl MVP. At least I think he should. He would have. I think.
Yeah, he would have.
That's
2
fair.
Defensive touchdowns. Absolutely.
Yeah, 2 defensive touchdowns. I think he gets it. If that was the case, does that change anything in Mahomes' legacy? Why or why not? What do you think?
I mean, I don't think most people are looking at Mahomes' legacy right now and weighing heavily the 3 Super Bowl MVPs. they weigh more heavily the 3 Super Bowl victories. And
for sure.
and all the things that have come with him, his 2 MVPs, his regular season MVPs. Now, if one MVP had been taken, let's say Drew Brees won the MVP in 18 instead of Mahomes,
Sure. Yeah.
I do think that if you look at a one-time MVP right now, that's a little bit different. It's a little bit lesser than
I mean,
being
he'd
a
have fewer MVPs than Lamar.
Exactly. And so those are one thing. Regular season MVPs are a huge, huge honor that comes with lasting lifetime legacy implications there. Now, Super Bowl MVP is something that a lot of people can't name which Super Bowls were which MVPs and a lot of, and Mahomes, it's not like he put up ridiculous gaudy numbers in all 3 of his Super Bowls, and yet he still had Super Bowl MVP in all 3.
Right.
The Philly game, 57, while the passing yards were under 200, he was super efficient because they obviously didn't get the ball very much. I think he was deserving of the Philly one. The San Francisco one, the first San Francisco one, which is hilarious. He struggled. He threw the 2 picks. But he then led them on the 21 straight fourth quarter points. Point being, Jordan, I don't think the legacy is impacted if Nick Bolton wins the MVP there, as long as everything else remains the same and the Chiefs win that game, which I don't know if you give them a defensive touchdown there. I don't think it would have hurt their chances to win by any means. So no, I'm going to say no.
I think the only thing it changes is the narratives, the haters. They'd be a little bit louder.
Sure. That'd be good.
There would be
I'd be okay with that.
There'd be a slightly louder narrative that said,
carried
Mahomes,
by the defense,
totally chokes in the playoffs, exactly. Win a real ring, Pat fraud,
and they already fucking say it. Who cares?
No, I know exactly. I mean, I just said it would be slightly louder. I didn't say that they weren't already saying it. We've got one here from Dildo/Dr. Baggins, formerly known as Dildo Baggins. He's cleaned up his act and he's gotten his doctorate. Congratulations, Dr. Baggins. In terms of Chiefs losses, which one is the biggest upset? We have 5 options here. A, 2003, 2004. I like that he put the season and, the postseason on there for our benefit, but the 2003 playoffs, the no punt game against the Colts. B, 2013 to 2014 wild card, the 28-point lead in the third quarter, also against the Colts. Of course, the Andrew Luck leap. C, 2017 wildcard loss to Marcus Mariota-led Titans at home, of course. Chiefs leading 21-3, I think it was at halftime in that game.
Yeah, correct.
D, 2016 to 17 lost to 6 field goals at home, of course, coming at the hands of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Or E, a new one, 2024 Democratic National Committee handing what should be an easy layup over a convicted felon. I got to admit, we're going to throw the last one out because obviously it doesn't pertain to the Chiefs, but I've already made my position on that clear on Twitter. That would be very much like the historical Democratic Party. Hopefully not, but you never know. So of the 4, no punt game, blown wildcard lead to the Colts, wildcard loss to the Mariota Titans, or 6 field goals at home to the Steelers. Which one of those is the chiefiest loss, biggest upset?
Yeah, so I think the phrasing of this question is interesting and fun because in terms of Chiefs losses, which one is the biggest upset?
Yeah.
So does that mean which one is the least Chiefs loss because it's a big upset, or just which one?
I see what you're saying.
Or where the first instinct I had, which is probably the way he's intending this, is which one upset you the most? Which one was which one was the most upsetting?
Sure, which one was the most upsetting?
They were all extremely upset. And let's just go with that because that's how these games were. As some of you have been listening for a while know, Austin and I attended the wild card loss to Marcus Mariota-led Titans. It was freezing cold. It was horrible. I have the most probably personal just horrible feelings and horrible memories from that game, even though obviously we remember and we're horrified by all of them. The no punt game, to be honest, the 2003 Chiefs were torching the world on offense, but like they had also finished the year 3-4 after the hot start. I kind of felt like Peyton Manning coming into Arrowhead and having a no punt game was not a super big upset. That was not like I can't believe this happened. It was not shocking. I'm going to put the no punt game last. And then the 6 field goals, that's kind of an Alex Smith type of loss. That's kind of I'm sorry. And I love the guy, and I was devastated when the Steelers beat us, but at the same time, like, go be better than that. And they weren't able to do it. So I'm going to put the 6 field goals second to last. And so deciding which one was more horrific between the Luck game and the Mariota game, I have to go with Mariota. I think that the Luck game was still early Chiefs. They were, the 13-14 Chiefs were fun, and it was cool that they started 9-0 like the 03-04 Chiefs. But at the same time, they also finished 13-3 after a 9-0 start and just weren't, I don't know. They didn't
actually
quite have
they
it.
finished. Yeah, they were 12-4, weren't they?
Oh yeah, you're right. They didn't go 13-3. They were worse than that. So they did kind of have a late season swoon, and it just it didn't really feel meant to be. Whereas the 17 team, this was the team that went into Foxborough in week 1 and beat the shit out of the Patriots. That team, even though they had some struggles offensively, and we were wondering if Mahomes would have been better served coming in late in the year and replacing Alex Smith and all that stuff. At the end of the day, you can't blow an 18-point lead at home to Marcus Mariota. This was not Peyton Manning. This was not Andrew Luck. This was not Ben Roethlisberger. This is by far the worst quarterback on the field of those 4 teams. So C, wildcard loss to Marcus Mariota-led Titans. Final answer.
I like that. And just for the record, the 2013 Chiefs started 9-0. They actually finished 11-5. So they actually finished 2-5 down the stretch,
and then lost the playoff game. So 2-6 down the stretch.
Lost the playoff game. So I mean, the writing was on the wall there, and those games were mostly competitive. It wasn't quite like the 2003 season. I mean, like, they went to the Peyton Manning Broncos, and they actually were pretty competitive in the first half of that game, and ended up losing by 10. But then, they lost to the Broncos by 1 score at Arrowhead. They lost by 3 to the Chargers. I mean, these were close games. They were competitive games. And then the season finale, they were playing backups, and they lost in overtime to the Chargers. So, you know what I mean? It is what it is. I've said this on the podcast before, but the only time that I've ever thrown something during a game was during the Colts game, the 28-point blown lead.
Remember the play?
I mean, it was the touchdown.
T.Y. Hilton long touchdown?
Yeah. And I embedded, not embedded, but there is a visible outline of, like, I think it might have been a Wiimote from a Wii.
Nice.
That might have been a little bit too. That was probably right around the time for the Wii, right? So yeah.
Sure.
I think it was. I think it was a Wiimote. I'm not proud of it, but that would probably be my top pick. But the wildcard loss to the Titans was very upsetting because we personally experienced it, and the nature of it was very upsetting. So this is a good question. I don't like having to relive and relitigate these situations, but I think I'm going to go with the Colts on that one. We got one final mailbag question here from our guy, Casey Puerto Rican. Rank Kansas City couples in terms of who has the most validity in being called the first couple of Kansas City. Some suggestions to get you started, and feel free to add any that should warrant such prestige. I don't think that we need to make any additions to this because I think, he's done well. We've got, of course, Patrick and Brittany Mahomes. We've got Travis Kelce and Mrs. Travis Kelce. I don't want to say that. That's Taylor Swift. Let's give her due. She'll be keeping her maiden name, and as she should. Billionaire superstar Taylor Swift. Lamar and Norma Hunt. Arthur and Ann Bryant. That is a great selection of names. Now, I love our city's. I love our city's barbecue heritage. I do have to put the Bryants last, and that's nothing against Bryants. I love Bryants, and again, I love the city's barbecue heritage. But again, we have to. I just think that even as much as barbecue is associated with Kansas City, like the sports teams and specifically the Chiefs, I mean, like, that's what the city now is known for. That's correct, and that's what the city will always be known for, right?
Well, plus, what else can you say about Arthur and Ann Bryant at all?
Yeah, that's true.
The rest of them are ingrained in the pop culture of the city.
Yeah, that's true. So we're choosing between Travis and Taylor, Patrick and Brittany, and Lamar and Norma. I mean, these things do have to be, you have to take sort of the generational aspect of it into account. Now, I'm going to dock the Hunts. No offense to the Clarks, the Hunts, but Lamar and Norma are, and the Hunts remain at their core Texans and Dallas people. Now
Yes,
they are
that's correct.
obviously they own this, they own the team. They have been part of the community for a very long time. Lamar and his dad HL were Dallas Texans through and through. The team was originally the Dallas Texans. They got forced out when the NFL put the Cowboys in Dallas and they had to come to Kansas City. They've made Kansas City their home. The team is iconic. It will always be our football team. There's millions of people out there that don't even know that the Chiefs were once the Dallas Texans, and that's where they were founded and got their start. But I do have to knock nothing against Lamar and Norma.
Sure.
They occupy a hallowed place in our city's history, but I do have to knock them for that. So
I
then
agree.
it just comes down to Pat and Brittany versus Travis and Taylor. And
Yeah.
I don't, I mean, I just,
You don't want to choose?
that's an impossible choice because, of course, Taylor is the most famous person of the four. She
On
also
on the
has,
planet.
yeah, right, exactly. She wins that battle head to head against any living person on the planet Earth currently. Now, she obviously has the loosest connections of the four to Kansas
Correct.
City, you know? So we do have to discount her somewhat for that. Patrick, then, you know, I mean, he was clearly a number two in terms of fame here, right? And in terms of international footprint, but Travis, by virtue of the fact that he's dating Taylor Swift, I don't know, is he more famous than Patrick Mahomes now? I kind of feel
I,
like he might be.
I think anyone who knows Patrick knows Travis because
Sure.
you're a football fan, right?
Right.
Nobody out there knows Patrick Mahomes but doesn't know Travis Kelce. But flip side, there are plenty of people
right.
that know Travis Kelce, but they don't even know, they've never even watched him play football before. So, yes, I do think at this moment, Travis is more famous than Patrick, just if you polled every human on earth. But, you know, we're talking about first couple of Kansas City.
Right.
You know, it's fame is not the only, you know, factor here.
You are correct. You are correct.
But I do think that Travis and Taylor are like the most famous couple in the world right now. I think it has to go Patrick and Brittany. I don't know if that's the direction you were moving towards there.
I think it is. I think it is.
I think Patrick's earned it. I think Brittany's earned it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like both of them have been diehard Kansas City, just full on since the moment he got here. And, you know, Brittany's gone through some shit. And I would love to consider them to be the first couple of Kansas City. First of all, just as a attaboy to her for taking all the crap from all the social media stuff and keep ticking and keep loving the city and keep doing what she's been doing, which has been great. All the stuff with the Current has been awesome. She's been a huge ambassador for the city. And then, I mean, Patrick Mahomes is my favorite human being on earth. Sorry, Mom. And like, you know, like it's got to be him. I can't imagine it being anyone else.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. Whichever team has Patrick on it, you know, it could be Patrick and any person. I mean, we can select Patrick
plus, and Ann Bryant.
Yeah, right, exactly. Patrick and Norma Hunt, R.I.P. Patrick and, you know, the guy that is selling you your gasoline. You know, like whatever. You know, the trash man, the garbage collectors, the maids. They, in combination with Patrick Mahomes, they're the first couple of Kansas City. It doesn't matter who it is, Patrick plus anybody. That's the first couple of Kansas City. That's going to do it for us this week. We will see you guys next week. It's always sunny in Cheesecake.